what have you learned about nutrition over the years, and like what role does that play in performance and longevity?
Yeah, it matters big time. If we're just talking about our day-to-day nutrition, obviously, as you know, like you hear the term all the time, like you can't put bad gas in a car, right?
Mm.
It's not going to run really well. So it's just like, okay, what you eat really, really matters for general health and performance. And um, on that, I'd say like a lot of people are doing the sport because they care about their health and they care about being 60-year-old and being able to run around with their grandkids and stuff like that. So all triathletes come into it with they want to do a full overall of their health, and with that is not just training, but nutrition really matters as well. So importance of that, importance of fueling during your workouts, staying up to date with the science, because what we knew a couple of years ago is totally different from what we know now. And making sure that we're applying, luckily we have yes, there's scientific studies going out there, but they have a pool of athletes and a lot of it is, controlled, but we have a pool of a lot of athletes that's we can see, hey, okay, with this information, let's apply it to these athletes and what are the results from that. And then we use that to then educate the rest of the athletes and say, like, hey, this is working, this is what we feel like you need to do, and you have that success, and then we just continue to apply it to more athletes. So, without in an Ironman, without fueling correctly, like there's no way you're going to reach peak performance. And so we definitely make sure to prepare our athletes with how much they need to drink, how many carbs they need to take, where are the sources coming from. Sodium is a factor. So many people's races are ruined because they're cramping come the run. Well, that's totally avoidable. And you got to know exactly how much sodium you have to take, what types of sodium to take, and when to take it. And through us paying attention to what is being said out there and then applying it in practice, come race day, like we know what to do.
Mm. Yeah, sodium is an interesting one. What, or like, how do you determine for an athlete how much they should be taking in, how often they should be taking it? Because isn't there something where like, some people are just like a lot, they sweat out a lot more salt than other people. So do you
Right.
have them like take a test or anything like that?
We do, yeah. So we actually partnered with a company called Levelin, and what
Hmm.
they do is they send us a patch and they put it on their arms. They go do a workout, so it's an active sweat test, and then the sweat is caught in a gauze, and you put that gauze into a little vial, and we send it off to the lab. And in the lab, they can test exact sodium concentration of an athlete as they sweat at that intensity, and then we scale it based on, okay, what was the temperature, what was the humidity. We know how to adjust and go up and down, and so we have athletes know that number, and then we also have athletes weigh themselves before and after workouts at different temperatures and humidities to know how much weight am I losing, how much water am I sweating out, because that impacts how much sodium you're going to take as well. um, and yeah, we get those results. It's crazy. We have some people that sweat about 1,000 milligrams of sodium per hour, which already most people think, wow, that's so much. I know I never took that much and I was cramping earlier. And then we have some guys sweating up to like 5,000 milligrams of sodium per hour. It's insane. So you need to know that number. Yeah. And then you need to be able to take the right sodium sources to be able to utilize, the sodium in order, uh, yeah, for you not to cramp and for everything to work as it should.
Hmm.
So
Yeah, so I just doing a little bit of research. I found so much of how like back in the day during for Ironmans, it was very much like there wasn't as much of an emphasis on like protein intake, and there was a lot of people who were fueling off of like a plant-based diet or things like that. And I still see that a decent amount in the endurance community.
yeah,
But then I also see people like I've had some of the top ultra runners in the world, like Zach Bitter and Jeff Browning and Mike McKnight on this show, who are all advocates for a lower carb approach and eating a lot of meat. And I know
right,
running, like just ultra running and triathlon are very, very different sports. But
right.
has there been a shift in overall like how people
Fuel.
fuel, like, yeah,
Yeah,
over the
yeah, no,
years?
there's definitely like there was a craze out there that was more prominent of just recently, a few years ago, and there's still people like them that are fueling of more fat and less carbs.
Hmm.
You really need to know.
Is that because you're just at that lower heart rate zone for a long
There
period
you
of
go.
time?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And so those are elite athletes, and they've trained themselves to be able to burn more fat for fuel. Now, the general population don't train themselves to burn more fat for fuel.
Right.
And then also they're going at an effort that is, they're using more carbs. You know, even if they did, they're still going to utilize a lot of carbs. And so
Yeah, can you touch a little bit on that, because I mean I'm somewhat aware of that, but isn't it like once you cross over like a certain heart rate zone, you start to burn carbs versus fat?
It's very dependent on the
Okay.
person. So we have athletes do a VO2 max test, and you can tell exactly what is that heart rate number, what is that pace, that power, that now you're burning more carbohydrates than fat. And so I can't tell you it's this heart rate number or this zone 2 because it varies per person. There could be someone zone 1 and they're just straight up carb sugar burner, you know, and another person like Zach Bitter that he can go all the way up to almost zone 3 and he's fat burner. So it's, again, really the way you train. And you have to be very dedicated to becoming a fat burner for that to work out for you. The general public is not. They're not taking those steps.
Yeah, I was gonna say, do you try to push people and like actively train them to develop that metabolic flexibility, or are you just like, hey, we're here for performance, or does it just depend on the athlete?
No, we do. And it's more so the ones really seeking peak performance. You need to be able to do both. And so we do have like our athletes going out for these long rides at zone 1 where they're improving their fat burning capacity. But the majority of the athletes, where they only have a certain amount of time to train, they can't go out and do these long sessions. We're just saying, okay, how can we get in as many carbs as possible to fuel the work and have our stomach, you know, be able to utilize that many carbs. And so we are a high carb coaching philosophy. And so even those athletes, those top athletes who are doing these long fat burning rides, come race day, they're still burning majority carbs. So we need to practice them being able to take those carbs and use that, knowing some of it will be fat and then some of it will be carbs. So